Selamat siang, terima kasih kepada Bapak Ibu hadirin yang sudah berkenan hadir di acara sharing session atau webinar siang kali ini. Acara rencananya akan kami mulai nanti pukul 1:30 waktu Indonesia bagian Barat. Terima kasih kepada Bapak Ibu sekalian yang sudah hadir lebih awal. Sambil menunggu, kita akan memutarkan video company profile dari Badan Riset dan Inovasi Nasional dan SEAMOLEC. Silahkan kepada Mbak Dian. Selamat datang kami mengucapkan kepada Pak Wahyudi dari Siamo. Kemudian kami ucapkan selamat datang juga kepada Ibu Trina Bizanti selaku Kepala Pusat Riset Pendidikan. Selamat siang Pak Wahyudi.
Assalamualaikum Mas Egi.
Waalaikumsalam.
Bunda.
Sehat selalu Pak ya, sehat-sehat Pak.
Alhamdulillah.
Baik, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah sudah hadir juga Ibu Trina dari Kepala Pusat Riset Pendidikan BRIN. Selamat siang Ibu Trina.
Selamat siang semuanya. Assalamualaikum. Selamat siang Pak
Waalaikumsalam.
Wahyudi.
Bapak Ibu sekalian, rencananya kita akan mulai nanti pukul 1:30 ya Bapak Ibu sekalian. Jadi kita sambil menunggu kita akan menyaksikan bersama video company profile dari SEAMOLEC dan BRIN. Lanjut Pak Dian.
Welcome to SEAMOLEC Accomplishment video this year. In the past years, SEAMOLEC has made significant efforts in advancing education. Let's take a closer look at some of SEAMOLEC's achievements. Through expansive research and development efforts, SEAMOLEC has made remarkable progress in ODL models. In 2022, SEAMOLEC introduced three major themes of the ODL model: micro-credential consortium mode of ODL in higher education, ODL quality enhancement, quality improvement of teachers in online learning. Building on the success of the previous year, SEAMOLEC further enhanced the ODL model in 2023. There are 4 ODL models being developed this year. SEAMOLEC also played a crucial role in ICT development and usability in education, empowering educators to harness the potential of ICT for effective teaching and learning experiences, while reducing the paperwork, enhancing communication, and increasing operational efficiency within the center's operation. Through its training programs, SEAMOLEC equipped educators with the necessary skills and knowledge to excel in the digital age. SEAMOLEC fostered partnership and linkages with esteemed organizations.
Selamat siang Bapak Ibu hadirin sekalian yang kami hormati. Izin kembali lagi kami sapa. Terima kasih kepada Bapak Ibu hadirin sekalian yang sudah berkenan hadir lebih awal untuk mengikuti kegiatan kami, sharing session dan webinar yang dipersembahkan oleh Badan Riset dan Inovasi Nasional bekerjasama dengan SEAMOLEC. Acara rencananya akan kita mulai nanti pada pukul 1:30 waktu Indonesia Barat. Kegiatan sharing session dan webinar ini nantinya akan menggunakan bahasa Inggris. Namun demikian, nanti Bapak Ibu hadirin sekalian tetap kami harapkan partisipasinya. Bila ingin bertanya maupun mungkin memberikan pertanyaan, dapat ditulis melalui chat yang sudah tersedia. Nanti akan kami bantu untuk mentranslasikan kepada dalam bahasa Inggris. Meskipun demikian, bagi Bapak Ibu yang sekiranya ingin bertanya langsung nanti pada pembicara kami, dapat nanti mengajukan tangan secara virtual, ada menu raise hand di sana, nanti kemudian akan kita panggil namanya, silakan untuk memperkenalkan diri dan kami berikan kesempatan. Sambil menunggu sampai nanti pukul 1:30, kita akan menyaksikan kembali video company profile dari Badan Riset dan Inovasi Nasional dan SEAMOLEC. Silakan Mbak Dian. Bapak Ibu hadirin sekalian yang kami hormati, pada kegiatan webinar atau sharing session kali ini, kami nantinya akan membagikan kuesioner yang tersedia secara online. Mungkin Bapak Ibu bisa melihat dalam kolom chat. Dari kuesioner tersebut nantinya Bapak Ibu semua dapat klaim sertifikat untuk kehadiran. Jadi mohon partisipasinya dari awal hingga akhir. Mohon sekiranya untuk membantu penelitian kami, nantinya Bapak Ibu dapat ikut berpartisipasi dalam penelitian ini. Dalam kuesioner tersebut tersedia dalam dua bahasa, dalam bahasa Indonesia maupun menggunakan bahasa Inggris. Jadi nanti terima kasih Bapak Ibu sekalian yang sudah berkenan bergabung dalam grup WhatsApp yang diberikan oleh admin kami. Selamat datang. Dan nantinya benar Bapak Ibu sekalian, nanti materi akan disampaikan melalui link ini. Kemudian apabila nanti ke depannya ada kegiatan penelitian maupun informasi lainnya, kami juga dapat menyampaikannya melalui grup WhatsApp yang sudah Bapak Ibu ikuti. Terima kasih.
Welcome to SEAMOLEC accomplishment video this year. In the past years, SEAMOLEC has made significant efforts in advancing education. Let's take a closer look at some of SEAMOLEC's achievements. Through expansive research and development efforts, SEAMOLEC has made remarkable progress in ODL models. In 2022, SEAMOLEC introduced three major themes of the ODL model: micro-credential consortium mode of ODL in higher education, ODL quality enhancement, quality improvement of teachers in online learning. Building on the success of the previous year, SEAMOLEC further enhanced the ODL model in 2023. There are 4 ODL models being developed this year. SEAMOLEC also played a crucial role in ICT development and usability in education, empowering educators to harness the potential of ICT for effective teaching and learning experiences, while reducing the paperwork, enhancing communication, and increasing operational efficiency within the center's operation. Through its training programs, SEAMOLEC equipped educators with the necessary skills and knowledge to excel in the digital age. SEAMOLEC fostered partnership and linkages with esteemed organizations and institutions both nationally and internationally. Collaborating with ministries, universities, and other stakeholders, SEAMOLEC shared best practices, exchanged knowledge, and worked towards common educational goals. SEAMOLEC recognizes the strength of collaborative partnerships. Through partnership, the center expands its networks and disseminates information through a broader platform. By organizing and participating in conferences, seminars, and workshops, SEAMOLEC facilitates the exchange of ideas, experiences, and best practices, fostering a vibrant educational community. Embracing online media platforms to expand its reach, SEAMOLEC uses digital news websites, webinars, and social media channels. SEAMOLEC wishes to provide positive impacts by delivering valuable insights and updates to its audiences. In line with SEAMIO's vision for educational advancement, SEAMOLEC has been dedicated to implementing the 7 SEAMIO priorities, ensuring progress and innovation in Southeast Asian education. Through organizational restructuring, staff development, and financial viability initiatives, SEAMOLEC continues to strengthen its foundation, empowering its team members and ensuring its long-term success. We are proud to announce the new appointed Deputy Directors of SEAMOLEC, Mr. Yaya Sutaria as the Deputy Director for Administration, and Ms. Cahya Kusumarati as the Deputy Director for Program.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible? I think Mr. Samuel Greiff has already joined us. Hello, Mr. Samuel. Am I audible?
Hello, good morning or good
Oh,
afternoon.
yes. I was about to say good afternoon, but it might be different time in your locations, right? So it is
Exactly.
good morning in your location. So how are you today?
I'm doing good, and I'm much looking forward to presenting some ideas to you. And thank you, everybody, for joining. How are you all doing?
Okay, let's get started then. Good day, everyone. So welcome to the webinar, Artificial Intelligence in Education. How to teach in the artificial intelligence era using AI technology to embrace just-in-time learning. My name is Virgiawan Listanto. You may call me Egi, and I am honored to be your master of ceremony and moderator for today's webinar. To begin, let us pay attention and listen to the national anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya. Thank you, Mbak Dian, for playing the national anthem of Indonesia Raya. Now, to get everyone comfortable and engaged, we will start with a quick icebreaker. Are you there, Mbak Dian? Yeah, please share some pics on the screen. And let's start with a fun poll. I just want to know how's everyone feeling by picking up the sheep scale. How do you feel today? Please drop your response in the chat. Yeah, so oh, but yeah, you're feeling normal. It looks like you're feeling normal. And then we just wait for yeah, but Benedicta, you're in number 7. Oh, what is number 7? Oh, you're happy today. Congratulations. And then but Haryanti, you're number 3. You repeat the sigh for today, right? And Patimura number 8. Oh, you're sleepy. I know. It's no wonder you're sleepy after having lunch. Maybe what do you have for your lunch? It seems like everyone has like many feelings for today's. Thank you for everyone responding. We do hope that we will have communication like this until the end of the webinar session. And then now, how about if I ask you guys the question like, which area of AI in the education are you most interested in? We have some option here. A, personalized learning. B, automating administrative tasks. C, enhancing student engagement. Or D, improving assessment methods. Oh, Mbak Haryanti said D. Oh, some of the participants still thinking about the sheep scale, but that's okay. We have got C, A, B, A, D. Wow. I think some people are here active. Oh, Rizal, you're so unique here. You instead of choosing one, you choose A, B, C, D. Oh, it's cool. A and D. Roy, Stefanus. It's okay. Wow, it's great. Everyone's so active here. Okay, so thank you for participating. It is great to see such a diverse range of interest. This leads us perfectly into our discussion for today. For now, to officially welcome you all, I would like to invite Dr. Trina Vizzanti, the head of the Research Center for Education, to deliver the welcome speech. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Pak Egi. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to our session on artificial intelligence in education, how to teach in the AI era using AI technology to embrace just-in-time learning. So I'm Trina Vizzanti, head of the Research Center for Education at BRIN. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Wahyudi as the director of SEAMOLEC, and also warm welcome to our distinguished speakers, Professor Samuel Greiff. Hello, Dr. Samuel Greiff. It's nice to see you here. And also Mr. Oliver Tian, our distinguished speaker, and our moderator, Pak Egi, and to all participants of these sharing sessions. So today we explore the transformative role of AI in education, focusing on enhancing teaching efficiency, personalizing learning, and providing objective assessment. We are honored to have two distinguished speakers, Professor Samuel Greiff from Goethe University Frankfurt, and an expert in educational psychology and AI, and Mr. Oliver Tian, director and founder of Oliver Tian Associates, a visionary in AI and robotics. So this session is organized by our research group on human science and educational technology in collaboration with SEAMOLEC. So we aim to provide new perspective on integrating AI into education to support just-in-time learning. I extend my gratitude to Dr. Wahyudi, the director of SEAMOLEC, for his opening remarks, and to our moderator, Prigawan Listanto, for guiding us through this session. And also thank you to Dr. Janu Arlin Wibowo, Dr. Suharto, Professor Oos, and all members of the research group who have prepared this event thoroughly. Thank you for joining us today. I encourage you to engage actively with our speakers and make the most of this opportunity to learn and share ideas about the future of education in the AI era. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Trina Vizzanti, for your warm welcome. Next, we have Dr. Wahyudi, director of SEAMOLEC, to give the opening remarks. The screen is yours.
Thank you so much, Mas Egi, our delightful moderators. What such a great opening, Mas, I did enjoy the icebreaker. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to all of you joining us today for significant feature sessions on AI in education. Well, as Mas Egi mentioned, my name is Wahyudi. Currently, I'm the director of SEAMOLEC. It is good honor and pleasure for me to be with us to open this event with collaborative efforts between SEAMOLEC and the National Research and Innovations Agency, BRIN. Well, as Dr. Tina mentions, today we gather to explore one of the most transformative and promising fields of our times, artificial intelligence, and its application in education. The convergence of technology and education offer opportunities to enhance learning experiences, personalized educations, and also prepare our students for rapidly evolving sports. Our collaboration with BRIN underscores our commitment to fostering innovation and sharing knowledge across borders. By combining our expertise and resources, we aim to create a platform where educators, researchers, policymakers, and also technologies can come together to discuss, share, and learn about the latest evolution and best practices in AI in applications. AI has the potential to revolutionize the education landscape, from intelligent tutoring system and adaptive learning platforms to automated gradings and administrative support, as Mas Egi just saw us in the icebreakers. However, with great potentials come great responsibility. As we embrace AI in educations, we must also consider the ethical implications, data privacy issues, and the need for upskilling our educators to effectively integrate these technologies into the teaching practices. Well, myself, as Mas Egi, I'm already colonial, so I'm the millennial, but I'm lifelong learner. So I would like to say, I just play around with the AI, one of the AI copilot. Okay, I love art, so can you see my screen?
Yes, it is visible for us.
No, hold on, because I would like to share. Where is my file? The copilot one. Okay, this one. So, so beautiful, and I play around this one, and I can create a simple book for my granddaughters, Lilo the cat and Sanum. So exciting. And you can play around with these ones. So I can imagine, oh my goodness, what if I reborn again to become students in this era? Katrina things we do like have a lot of joy in learning this. And talking about this one, Dr. Rina, coincidentally, arts, I remember I have a lost friends from my kampung halaman. I just found here, Pak Heru Stiono. He's the artist. I remember her pictures. So Pak Heru, thank you so much for joining with us. Okay, yeah. Again, so as I mentioned, I'm colonial, but please, with this technology, please for us be a lifelong learner. This is one of our mandate in SEAMOLEC, to bring everyone to become lifelong learners. Today's sessions, continue to my opening remarks, is designed to provide a comprehensive understanding of the current state of AI in education. We have an impressive lineup of speakers. We have Professors Oliver, from Singapore, and also Samuel from Professor Samuel from Goethe University Frankfurt. Thank you so much, and we are looking forward for your expertise and sharings during today. So, I would like to encourage all participants to actively participate in this discussion and make the most of this opportunity. I believe we will learn so much from these two renowned and world-class experts. And I would like also once again to extend my gratitude to Dr. Tina to bring for the invaluable partnership in organizing these events. I also want to thank to our speaker, participants, and our dedicated team at SEAMOLEC for making these events possible. Let us embrace the possibilities that it offers and together shape the future applications for better. IRB by reciting Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, declare the spiritual sharing sessions on artificial intelligence applications officially open. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I get back the screen to Mas Egi.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the remarkable speech from Dr. Wahyudi. Actually, you still look young and energetic, Pak Wahyudi. I'm impressed with that.
Officially this year, but I don't know the tires.
Yeah. Okay. All right, everyone. To get us started with the discussion, let's have some fun with a little Indonesian tradition. Here's pantun, a two-part poem with a twist. Dian, Mbak Dian, are you there? Yeah. Okay. Normally, when Indonesian, when they have like pantun, normally like the audience will say "cakep." "Cakep" means beautiful, but here you might say impressive or excellent. So are you ready, Mbak Tian? Schools once filled with books and chalk. Now robots might have your call.
Cakep.
Thank you. Will AI make teachers balk or empower them one and all? Yeah. Thank you so much. It is now. Yeah.
This is by AI or by yourself?
I made it by myself. I was thinking about it like in 1 hour, 2 hours. I couldn't remember.
So
Yeah. Thank you again. It is now time to move to the main part of our webinar. We are privileged to have two distinguished speakers with us today. First, we have Professor Samuel Greiff, an expert in educational technology and AI application in learning. Dr. Samuel Greiff is a full professor of educational psychology and artificial intelligence at Goethe University Frankfurt. Before that, he worked as a full professor at psychology and educational assessment at University of Luxembourg. His research covers various areas, including educational psychology, artificial intelligence, educational technology, cognitive science, and international large-scale assessment. We will start with the Dr. Samuel Greiff, who will share his insight on how AI technology can transform teaching methodologies in the next 40 minutes. We will remind you later on, Dr. Greiff, when it is about 5 minutes before the end of the presentation. Let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Samuel Greiff. The floor is yours.
Excellent. And thank you so much again for having me. It's a pleasure meeting you all, even though only virtually. I'm much looking forward to the presentation. Please feel free in between to also ask some questions in the chat or directly, and then we can see whether we have a discussion while I'm trying to present. I'm going to share my screen. Just a second. I assume this is working and you can all now see the presentation in full screen.
Yes.
Is it?
It is visible, but not in a full screen.
Not in the full screen.
Yeah, but still visible for us.
Okay, so let me see, because just one more second and we give it another try. And if it's not working, then is it now visible in full screen?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And when I started thinking a little bit about what I should present, I was thinking, should I present rather in a, let's say, very general and very broad way, which you see in the title is what I decided to do. So I'm really going to talk about artificial intelligence in education from a very broad perspective. And together with you, I will try to identify some, well, let's say, promises that AI might hold on how it can influence and change the way how we understand education, but also talk about potential challenges and also some steps that we need to take over the next few years, maybe to really integrate artificial intelligence into education. To this end, the talk is going to be pretty broad, pretty generic. We also have some examples to look at. Some of them may be familiar to you, others might be new. And I also want to mention that basically the structure of this presentation is related to a paper that I'm currently publishing with a few colleagues. So I would also like to give credit to them later on. But let's get started. When you think about education, of course, this is an extremely broad field. We're not only talking about formal education, we're also talking about early childhood education. We're talking about increasingly about lifelong learning. So education as an entity involves so many different things and all aspects of our lives, including, of course, our cognitive aspects, our minds. It includes innovation, it includes collaboration, not only between teachers and students in the classroom, but also among school structures, among parents, teachers, among policymakers, practitioners. So everybody, or almost everybody, is in one way or the other involved in education. And of course, education is also a large part of how we socially interact together, how we learn together. and how we actually shape our joint environments. So that makes it so incredibly complex to talk about education. And we see in many studies that it's often quite straightforward to make small changes in single schools, in single classrooms. But when it really comes to actually changing education, changing educational systems on a very broad spectrum, that this is incredibly difficult. And then sometimes things happen. Technology develops, and suddenly we have a very different situation in the outer world. And this is what has happened now. AI has emerged extremely quickly. It changes so many things. And now educational systems and education in a way is faced with the question, what can we do with it? And one of the core challenges is that the technological development is so extremely quick and rapid that the systematic and the structural educational approach is really struggling in terms of keeping up with this high level of speed. So let's talk a little bit about what people think, and I think some of it was already in the second icebreaker question, the one that came right after the sheeps that I liked quite a lot, is like, what do people think we can do with AI in education? So what are the promises that if we really can integrate artificial intelligence, or even more broadly speaking, educational technology into education, how will this change and alter the way how we understand education? Now, 4 promises, and that's actually already the main part of my presentation. 4 different promises I want to talk about. This is supporting learners, but it's of course also supporting teachers. It's the question how we understand and how we use feedback. And of course, what do we do with assessment, and how does AI in a way change assessment? So, of course, the kind of first thing that more or less comes to mind is we can use AI, we can use AI-driven teachers, AI-driven materials to support students in different ways, because it allows for a very personalized way of giving support, of providing feedback and helping students at different stages of learning. So there is the statement that AI in general, but in particular generative AI, can provide a personalized and adaptive support based on not only learners' unique knowledge, but actually also based on their unique personality and their specific needs at this time. And in fact, large language models have a remarkable proficiency in providing this type of support, in helping learners in their specific need at a certain point in time. And there are actually quite some interesting examples out there. I would be interested to hear whether you have seen some of them. So one is Migo. You see it here. It was featured in the New York Times. And the core part, what you can see is this is not about just providing answers, but to kind of engage and support the learning process. You see this here, and of course, a student would probably ask something like, oh, can you just tell me the answer to, for instance, a math problem? And then Canmigo will not do that. It will kind of more support the learning process. And that is something that is kind of new in a way that it can be done in this level of detail. I think that was unseen before. ChatGPT, example from ChatGPT, for instance, when it comes to writing code, you can basically ask large language models to provide a code for a certain program, and then even give you some explanation and kind of support you with not only this is the code that you need, but actually provide some explanation on how this code is run and what its different components are. Actually, I have a number of colleagues, even in research, that when they write their code for their results, they, for instance, in R or in other statistics program, they nowadays use ChatGPT to get kind of a first version. Something that I have some personal experience with, and it's presented in a very game-like manner, is Duolingo. Probably several of you have heard of that. It's a program for learning languages. It presents itself in a very game-like, but also driven by AI manner. So I think the core point here is with these examples, we saw briefly the Khan Migo, we saw the ChatGPT and the Duolingo, is that also when you look at intelligent tutoring systems that have been around for probably 2 decades, 25 years, and it takes a lot of effort to develop them, generative AI is much better, and it easily achieves superior and more naturalistic interactions than you can ever have with the conventional tutoring systems. So that is probably one of the biggest promises, in particular when you think about resources in education and large classes. And you think about one teacher in a class with 25, 30 students, it will be difficult for this one teacher to provide support to all the students. And here, generative AI really has a lot of potential to provide specific personalized learning support. This is one example. This is a large project in the Arabic region where I was involved, where they set up an entire large learning platform from grades 5 to 9 in different subjects. And this is exactly the type of learning support, personalized learning, that you can provide through computer-based AI-driven software. It's called the Aleph program. If you have a minute after the presentation, take a look on their website. So they have an integrated personalized learning platform that they use in, I think by now, over 5,000 schools. So it's really a large number of schools that participate. And of course, it's not only student-faced. So it's not only about supporting learning, but it also is supposed to support the teachers. So it's also teacher-faced, and this is the second part that we look at, or the second promise, that generative AI can be used to benefit teachers and to benefit curriculum development and also content generation. So the teachers can use generative AI to provide better, more targeted materials, and also maybe in a more efficient way. And there are also several tools out there, several bots that support teachers in planning their classes, in preparing materials. You see some example here, for instance, GPTeach, and also how an interactive teacher assistant training could look like when you have, so to say, generative AI-based students. So you can kind of simulate the classroom and the learning situation for teachers, in particular in teacher education. Is there another example on where a bot can help teachers to structure and plan their lessons and to help them in coming up with a reasonable structure. And of course, the same holds also for materials. And I hope that this brief AI-generated video is working, so teachers can use materials and can generate materials that are easier accessible. And let me see, and that it seems like it's not working now. That is a pity. But usually you would see a nicely animated video that was created for students by teachers with the help of generative AI. And there's some research on it, what actually happens in the classroom when you use these type of materials and when you use these products. And one interesting side effect is, for instance, that it can help to reduce some group differences. So of course, you would like to have different groups to have equal learning opportunities in school. And there are, for instance, large differences, in particular when it comes to STEAM classes, between male and female students. And some of these bots and some of these materials, they can actually help to make these differences smaller, which is probably something that on a political level is something that you would like to have. So this is the second promise, supporting not only the students, not only offering personalized learning support, but also supporting the teachers beyond traditional teaching paradigmas, and by fostering more dynamic and engaging learning environments, for instance, through the type of content that I just showed a minute ago. Another promise that AI in education holds is that we can use, and of course this is related to the two promises I mentioned before, that we can use and employ feedback in a totally different way now. Now, when I think back, maybe 30 years ago, teachers provided written feedback. It took them a lot of time. It was usually short and brief feedback because they just didn't have the time to provide more. Or when I think about a lecture at my new department, where it's a lecture for teacher education students, and I think there are around 1,800 students in this lecture, and they do provide an essay at the end of the lecture. 1,800 students, no way to provide personalized feedback to them. Now this changes with generative AI. So, and we've actually done this here in Frankfurt. It was quite an interesting big thing to do, that we provided generated feedback to them, and they were quite happy with it. Actually, they felt it was timely, it was personalized, and it wasn't in that case. It can also be multimodal. So we have new ways of giving personalized feedback on, be it math problems, be it psychology courses, or be it written texts. One example is the Flora project that uses GPT-4, and that can provide very detailed feedback on an essay. So you submit an essay and you get feedback on on different aspects, on the structure, on the content, on the level of originality. One thing that is maybe a bit more, let's say, kind of a fun thing is that you can also deliver feedback through avatars. So there are tools now where you can upload. You see this here on the lower left side. You can upload your own picture. So maybe I should have done this for this presentation and then generated a 3D avatar, maybe put some red hair around me or something like that, and then also provide feedback, spoken feedback in a very realistic way. And of course, the interesting thing is when you do this, in particular with younger students, so you have your teacher talking to you as an avatar, that increases engagement and effectiveness, and it's even better as compared to just giving feedback in a written way. So not only feedback changes, or the possibilities we have with feedback changes fundamentally, but also the way of how we understand assessment. And here we are already starting to run a little bit into, well, one could probably say into issues, because suddenly it's not so clear anymore where the borders actually are. So how can you, in the context of generative AI, how can you assess what actually a student can do? And also the entire nature of actually assessment, formative assessment and summative assessment changes. So it's not really clear anymore how you can put a mark on somebody, but it becomes much more, assessment can become much more integrated into the entire learning process. And it's more about monitoring how learning happens and providing feedback and then improving, than kind of having a test on a certain topic after a certain time. Also here, of course, you find this in many areas. There are quite advanced examples in the field of medical education. And in fact, when you look at medical education at universities, they usually employ, let's say, the most state-of-the-art things, because of course, you know, if you want to think about one profession that is trained the best, you know, you might think about teachers, but probably you might also want to think about doctors, that they should be trained in the best way possible. So here's an example of using generative AI to help students make good diagnostic assessments with patients. Now, I'm not sure entirely about the time, but I can always also just shorten towards the end, and I'm still waiting for the 5-minute signal, and I'm also happy to share my slides later on. But I do want to go a little bit on a side note, which is related to assessment in a very international context, because that's something that I find extremely relevant. International comparative studies where different educational systems are compared with regard to their futures and how they actually function. There are many of these assessments. Might be, well, I'm pretty sure there are also national assessments taking place in Indonesia. There are two quite broad and important assessments, which are PISA and PIAC. They are run by the OECD. And PISA is the program of international student assessment. And PIAC is kind of, well, saying it easily, it's kind of the same only for adults. So for people being between 18 and 65 years old. And these assessments, in particular PISA, have a large impact on how educational systems actually change, or how they do reforms when they compare to other educational systems. But of course, they are also very interested in looking at what students can do in terms of what they need in the 21st century. And of course, that's also changing. So we need students that can deal with technology, that can deal with AI. So in addition to, let's say, very traditional competencies like reading, mathematics, or science, PISA has been focusing on other aspects like creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, but also learning in the digital world. So in the current cycle of PISA 2025, they are looking at learning, at how 15-year-old students learn in the digital world in over 90 countries in all over the world. I want to show you a brief example of this. I don't know how much the PISA study is represented in the media when it is published in Indonesia. In Europe, I have to say, you find performance of, for instance, the German educational systems. You find it in the 8 o'clock news, the largest news. So what you see here is a table, a ranking table of participating countries, and you see those that are in green, they perform above average. Those in orange perform within average, and those in red perform below average. And this is kind of used to, in a way, compare different educational systems and also get a good understanding of how educational systems can improve and what they can do better. And this is an example of one of those units, or one of those tasks that students have to work on when it comes to learning in the digital world. They have to write a little code, kind of a computer software programming code that solves a certain task. And that's something that PISA has never looked at before. So the understanding of, we want to see whether educational systems manage to produce students that have a good understanding of how to navigate in the digital world, how to use AI, how to use education technology. That's something that you don't have usually as a school subject, but it's something that students need to learn at school. So this is what PISA is looking at. And that is something that I just wanted to show briefly. It was done by a colleague at Educational Testing Service. This shows how even these studies can use AI for assessment. A question, maybe? No.
No, it's suddenly someone opened the microphone. We're sorry for
Okay.
that.
That can happen. That has happened to me as well. So this is an example of how AI scoring can be used even in assessments like PISA. And that's something that is really, let's say, cutting edge at the moment, because traditionally these studies have looked at, well, levels of proficiency. They have looked at right or wrong answers. And now they actually use AI scoring algorithms to look at the process. And what you see here is examples of students that navigate either successfully or not so successfully through these tasks. And you are able to really describe, even on the level of 90 different countries in international assessments, you are able to describe the actual learning process of students in these assessments. But that was, in all honesty, supposed to be just a small side note in terms of pointing towards that studies such as PISA that have extremely high relevance, not necessarily so much for the classroom, it's difficult because it's a very high level assessment, but that have an extremely high impact on education policy making. There are many countries in the world that on the basis of PISA and PIAC results have entirely reformed their educational systems, that even in these contexts, we are now starting to use generative AI and AI-driven scoring algorithms. So we would all agree to say there are many promises, many things that are happening, that are moving ahead. And I try to briefly talk about those four, about the support for the student, the support for the teacher, the way we can use and employ feedback, and then, of course, how AI, in largely a positive way, might be able to change how we understand assessment. Now, if you have such fundamental changes, of course, that always comes along with challenges as well. And I'm pretty sure that several of the examples that I will give you now, that you have heard of them before. But there are imperfections, there are ethical dilemmas. AI, I already mentioned that, can disrupt assessment. There's a question of workload and of bias. And I want to go through those with you, all of them briefly. And then we can also see later on what we do with these imperfections and these challenges. The first is probably all of you have heard of that or have seen some interesting examples that even though on the surface and in terms of often the wording when you use large language models, AI seems to perform extremely strong, there are many imperfections. There are factual errors. You've probably heard of the hallucination phenomena, and you see this also here depicted in this figure. And there are actually already scientific articles that kind of take a look at that. So that's actually interesting if you have the time to read it up. The title is, if it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it probably is a duck. So it's kind of a list of ChatGPT failures. And one striking example is that it doesn't happen often, but you do find examples where generative AI, here in the example ChatGPT, struggles in a surprising way with very easy tasks. So here you see a task that when you go through it, or a problem that probably most of us could pretty easily solve without using a calculator, without writing a software. It's a pretty straightforward, simple inference problem. But here ChatGPT fails. So it says it says the information given that does not suffice to answer the problem. There are other examples where it even provides an answer, but it's the wrong answer. So that is quite an issue if you have something that looks very shiny, that looks very impressive, but might still be wrong, or at least imperfect. So that means you always need some measure of control. You always need, sometimes this is called having the human in the loop. So even with generative AI, you need the human expertise. You need additional validation to avoid that you have inaccuracies. And of course, you don't want to bring these inaccuracies into the classroom or to your students. There are a number of ethical dilemmas. That's also a challenge that are related to AI. And They are a lot about, or related a lot about, transparency, privacy, equality, and so forth. So how can you provide consent? How can you have this aspect of trusted artificial intelligence? And of course, how can you make sure that the information that you receive is not really biased? And one issue that immediately jumps to mind is large language models. They draw from available sources, mainly on the World Wide Web. And of course, this is, in a way, you could say, language-wise or culturally biased. So about 3/4 of the material is in English, and you can see Indonesian is also on the list, but it's rather a minor part. So same holds for my mother tongue. So of course that introduces automatically the ethical question: how do you have fair representation of all language groups and also the cultural aspects associated with this language group? So a number of ethical questions. I mean, ethical questions of consent, of fairness, of diversity, they are very difficult global questions. And now they have become so much more difficult when it comes to generative AI. And that is yet a largely unregulated field. So there's much, from my perspective, that still needs to be done, and that also is in the making. Only very briefly, another challenge is the disruption of assessment. We see this mainly or a lot at universities. Like, you can't really say who wrote the essay and how much engagement was with the essay. So are we actually assessing the bot, or are we actually assessing the student? So on the one hand, of course, I would say it's a fair point that you can use generative AI to, support you in your writing process, but still you need the human in the loop. But it's becoming much more difficult to actually distinguish what is something that can be attributed to the human and what can be attributed to the AI, and where's the kind of intersection. Now, what that also comes along with is that if you use large language models to offload a lot of the work, you might not be able, as a student or as a lifelong learner, to develop some of the skills that you still need in other situations, such as critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity. So I think this is kind of one of the core challenges to make use. So speaking on the level of the society, to make use of generative AI in a way that we still develop our cognitive and non-cognitive skills in the best way possible. I want to talk briefly about productivity and workload, and maybe only show this slide here, because of course one hope would be associated with AI that it really also makes it easier, saves a lot of time, also for teachers. Now, this has been the hope with many inventions that have changed our world. Whether it really has led to, let's say, a decrease in workload or a better work-life balance or more happiness is really a different question. I mean, think about the telephone. That was probably something where people thought, okay, now we don't need to meet anymore. We can talk to each other over a distance. Whether this has really led to the fact that workload has decreased, I don't know. I mean, phones have been around ever since I was born, but what has not been around when I was born were emails. So how do you feel about emails? I mean, just think about it. They are certainly excellent to have, but has the invention of emails really led to the fact that you have less work, that your workload has decreased? I wouldn't say for myself, not necessarily. So basically that comes down to the question, does the use of generative AI really decrease workload, really make things more efficient and effective? One would think so, but I think it is an empirical question and we don't really know yet. And we might be surprised that at the end of the day, it might just be shifting tasks or changing things, not necessarily decreasing workload. Yeah, bias is something we talked already about the language, but some generative AI algorithms, here Midjourney and version 4, if you prompt it, you get a very US-centered result. So you have bias, and you need to be aware of that. And this bias is not only the language that I mentioned initially, but the bias is also about cultural values. You know, I would think probably many countries a superhero patriotic dog would not necessarily look like this. So it's kind of weighting both things against each other, the promises that we had, but also the various challenges. And it's kind of about navigating in between and making use of both of them. So that leads me a little bit to the to looking a bit more forward, which is what are the needs and the future direction. So what should we focus on the one hand, making the promises happen, and on the other hand, dealing adequately with the challenges. And here I want to briefly go through 3 different points, and probably one of the most important ones is that in a way, almost everybody needs to develop a certain level of AI literacy. So we need to have at least a basic understanding of how AI systems work, on how we can evaluate the output, how we can make use of the output, and also know about the limitations, the impact, and ethical considerations. That is related a little bit to what I said about the PISA study. They want to look at transversal skills, and AI literacy is certainly one of the extremely quickly emerging transversal skills. Of course, you need to be able to read, to do math, and to do science. But 10 years from now, if you don't really know anything about AI literacy, or if you don't have any AI literacy, if you can't use a chatbot, if you can't evaluate information produced by large language models, you're probably going to struggle in a number of areas. So here's one example that was dominantly in the news. Is like what dangers come along in situations where you might not have a sufficient level of AI literacy, or put differently, when you just use it. You just use it and you don't evaluate it. There was a lawyer, there was a story that who used the support of a large language model of generative AI to prepare a court filing. And you remember the challenge of hallucination. So the large language model came up with something that didn't really exist, and that made it into the official court filing. So yeah, you see here the title, the US lawyer used ChatGPT for court filling, and that resulted in rather an embarrassing situation. So we need to find ways on how to develop AI literacy. And you can refer to existing models of how to build up proficiency and competencies. So that's here the kind of a model, a competence development model. And this is what you can transfer to AI literacy, that you need to develop knowledge, understanding, ways of application, analyzing, evaluation, and then own creation at the end of the day. And I'm not sure whether educational systems at this point in time are prepared to do that, but they need to kind of put it into their curricula that they need to develop AI literacy. By the way, not only in their students, but also in their teachers. So that is also the large challenge, to kind of upskill the existing educational body. Methodological rigor. This is more like a research point, but things are happening so quickly in generative AI. And you see a lot of papers and research ideas coming out, but some of them lack the methodological rigor. We want to know how generative AI affects students and how it affects them over a long term. So we need strong studies, we need good designs, and we need also some time to actually do research that goes beyond mere opinion, but that provides data and evidence for how to best use AI in education. And that is really something, because the technological development and the potential is so high, and research always takes a lot of time, that's really something where we are lagging behind in many ways. And then, of course, what we also need, and I think in a way this session or this event today is an excellent opportunity to do exactly that, is to integrate the academic research, the practical application, and the policy making in a way that these different areas kind of combine their expertise and then look at how we can integrate artificial intelligence into education. I did not see, but maybe because I don't have the chat open, I did not see a 5-minute warning, but I think I should have received it already. Okay.
5 minutes. Yeah, signal from me. Thank you.
Okay, I have I think 1 or 2 more minutes to go, and then so when we look again at the needs and future directions, this is the complex interplay of the challenges, the promises, and the needs and future directions. So of course, but I think this became clear already during my presentation, they are largely related and they closely interact with each other. But what are the core take-home messages that I would like to deliver during this presentation? The first is that there is a unique opportunity, in a way you could say a transformative opportunity, to integrate artificial AI, artificial intelligence into education with a benefit for teaching, learning, and assessment. So throughout all aspects of education. Now, to realize this full potential requires addressing significant challenges, and we don't have solutions for all of them yet. Those are ethical dilemmas, imperfections of AI, disruptions in assessment, and potentially even, at least in the beginning, an increased workload for educators when they onboard with AI and integrate AI into their teaching. Now, what do we need to navigate these complexities? We need to cultivate AI literacy, so people need to develop AI literacy among all education stakeholders. We need to have evidence-based decision-making, so we need data to know what really works, and we need to ensure methodological rigor in all research related to AI in education. Now, I want to acknowledge my co-authors of this paper on which this presentation is based. Without them, or they deserve a lot of the credit of the thoughts that I presented in this presentation. So thanks to both of them, and thank you all for your attention. I did not look at the chat, but thank you so much. Please get in touch if you have any questions, and maybe we can also have a bit of a discussion now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Samuel Greiff, for the remarkable presentation. Just a bit of story. When I was a primary school teacher in 2014, I used Khan Academy, Duolingo to teach literacy. At the moment, seeing the way Khanmigo and Duolingo are developing from your presentations, I believe it is very confident that the future will be fun and customized to its user. Later on, we will have like a Q&A session after the presentation from Mr. Oliver Tian. I believe Mr. Oliver Tian already here. Hello, Mr. Oliver Tian. Am I audible?
Hi.
How are you, Mr. Oliver Tian?
Good, good. I'm very good. I listened to quite a bit of Dr. Samuel Greiff's presentation. Wonderful presentation. I also saw the questions on the chat. Really good questions. I hope to answer them as I go along with my presentation.
Yeah, I saw it. Thank you for sharing that perspective, Mr. Oliver Tian. Yeah, it highlights the ongoing debate about the potential impact of AI on education. Yes, many educators are concerned about AI replacing critical thinking, while others see it as the tool to empower students. I'm sure your presentation will shed light on how we can strike the balance and leverage AI for positive outcomes. But before we start listening to the presentation from Mr. Oliver Tian, let me read his CV. So basically, Mr. Oliver Tian is a highly motivated business and technology manager with strong communication, negotiation, and stakeholder engagement skills. With over 35 years of experience working within the information technology sector, including public service, Oliver has delivered complex and large-scale projects in international markets and various cultures. Is the director and founder of Oliver Tian Associates. He is also the Vice President Global Robot Clusters, or GRC, Vice Chairman International Alliance of Robotic Association, IARA, and many more. Now we invite Mr. Oliver Tian to discuss the practical aspects of implementing AI in educational institutions. I'm happy to hand the screen over to Mr. Oliver Tian for the next 40 minutes. Just like the same like previous speaker, I'll give you like signals 5 minutes before the end of the presentation. Please take it away.
Thank you very much, host. Thank you for the audience. I see that we have got about 300 people in the audience. This is wonderful because it is definitely a very interesting topic. And I know that everybody's asking the questions that you're asking in the chat. I'm going to try to attempt to answer some of the questions, then I will jump into the presentation. Let me start off by saying that I do not believe AI will replace us in our jobs. But I must say that the person who knows AI will replace the person who do not. And that is where I will reinforce what Samuel shared earlier. You must have at least an elementary understanding of what AI is, how it can be used, and what's the best way to leverage the technology to support you in what you do. Thank you to the host for sharing my brief introduction. Let me share my slides and then we'll talk a lot more about what we can do. I'm going to push my slide into slide share. Okay, good. So I want to talk about how AI can be used to embrace in just-in-time learning. So there are two parts that I like to emphasize. One is the use of AI technology, and the other is really the whole idea of just-in-time learning. And this is something which I believe a lot in, and I want to talk a lot about it. Right. Essentially, I think what's important is that AI today is used in business, in technology, but little time is spent on talking about the impact of AI in the education space. And I think this is very important because the next generation of young people like yourself coming out in the industry needs to understand what's the impact. And some of the questions in the list points to that. Right? Does it curtail creativity? Does it impact your ability to think better? I believe that's going to be the contrary. And I will share with you some of the leading experts around the world, their discussions. Why do I say that's the case? Now, first of all, I'd like to introduce a few organizations that I belong with. The Global Robot Cluster is based out of Daegu in Korea. Daegu is probably the third largest city in Korea, and we are a network of 26 countries around the world. We focus on AI and robotics, particularly AI in robotics and making machines a bit more intelligent. We believe we want to build, support countries that are interested in enabling the effective use of AI in robotics. The second group that I am part of is really the International Alliance of Robotics Association. And this association is based in Hangzhou, China, and hence I have a window into what's happening in China, the different provinces, the different aspects and progress of deploying AI in the different provinces and states. And of course, in Singapore, I'm part of APARA. APARA is a non-profit organization that's based in Singapore that has membership across Asia Pacific region. I run my own consulting company. We help startups, particularly looking at AI and robotics and how they can, more importantly, build solutions that's more human-centric and support the use of technology. Now, a few key points to note. Technology such as AI are getting better, and faster, right? We know that over the period, right, the ability for such technology to reach a level that's equivalent to human performance is getting shorter and shorter. So the chart on the right that you see demonstrates how quickly handwriting recognition to image recognition to large language models is achieving that. I want to point to a message that was given by Thomas Friedman, and I believe Thomas Friedman is somebody we all know. He's the author of The World is Flat, and he says that the next generation of people needs to be looking at finding jobs, understanding what we can create, and not so much just being a process maker. What we cannot create, we cannot understand. And that's a very important message. The more you're able to associate your knowledge to work, makes you a better human. Now, does AI make learning easier? The answer is yes. In fact, what is critical is that AI is a friend and not a foe. And we need to be able to use AI to learn in a way that best fits our ability. Now, why is that the case? Because the rules have changed. Because what we are seeing is such that actually it's no longer enough to say why this is happening, how this is happening. We need to be able to understand more to do the right things and do things right. Hence, I repeat, right? AI will not replace you, but AI will. The person who knows AI will. And for future skills, it's also important to understand that what is happening is that AI impact on the human life is going to speed up. And more importantly, you're going to see a lot of change to what's happening. So this is a simple, I think my slides are running very fast. Let me kind of pause that and go back to that again. So a very simple way of looking at what's happening is that we believe, right, based on study, the impact on AI, impact of AI on the different jobs are going to be large, and learning is not going to get away with it. In fact, we believe the speed of learning, the ability to associate learning, the depth of learning are certainly going to be able to be impacted. And you as students will need to understand how best you can leverage Gen AI, ChatGPT, that's mentioned in the chat box, right? How we can leverage that. Now, one key question that I would like all of you to think about is this. Sometimes when we have a piece of knowledge that you're curious and you're not certain about, you want to know more about something, ChatGPT will provide you 5 paragraphs, explain to you what's happening. But is it good enough? The answer is probably no, because you need to take that knowledge and try to associate it back. Associate it back to the problem you're trying to solve. Associate it back to the application of what that's trying to deal with. And this becomes very key. Instead of saying that we do not want to use ChatGPT or any other Gen AI tools, it is more important we start to question ChatGPT and Gen AI. For instance, prompt engineering is becoming a largely required skill. How do you ask the questions? How do you reinforce the questions? How do you check further whether the questions can be validated or not? Hence, it is extremely important that we are able to understand some fundamentals before we can talk about how AI can support you. What is even more important is how can you actually question the output given by ChatGPT or any of the other Gen AI tools, such as ask the question, why not? Look at the reverse. Look at how things could have happened otherwise. If ChatGPT says it happens this way, why not another way? Or perhaps ask, what if? What if it is another possibility? How does it affect you? And hence, it's so important that we believe the learning journey is not going to be the same as before. As in the lecturer provide you all the content, what you do is just purely memorize the content and reproduce it in the examination. The learning journey will move towards how you can explore, how you get curious, how do you want to know more. It is not about how much you know. It's about how much more can you learn based on the knowledge that you have. So exploration to satisfy your curiosity is a very important piece of skills that you need to pick up. And of course, this grounds you on understanding the fundamental. The core fundamentals are something which all you must have as a basic knowledge. And it has to be deeply understood in order for you to explore further. Next, AI can be used to bridge theory and practice. Put that knowledge of understanding the large language models, the Gen AI tools into practice and see how it feeds back. And then as a human, question that, challenge that. And to do that, you need the fundamental skills to be able to do it. Eventually, you want to see how we can integrate AI into applying knowledge, and more importantly, allow you to cross-pollinate and innovate and push the agenda further. I like this diagram, right? AI needs to stimulate inductive learning. And let me explain that in a while. You have Lego tools are great. They've got lots of pieces. They're like data. You can sort it out by the different colors. You can arrange it in a certain pattern, right? Present it nicely visually to demonstrate that it has got a representation. But what's more important, can you take the data and construct a story that tells a purpose? So AI must be able to help stimulate inductive learning, but more than just deductive learning. Now, what do I mean by that? Deductive learning is based on data sets, data information they have of the past. And based on this past information, you say, okay, let me deduce that this is going to happen next. You predict what's going to happen next. But a lot of the prediction is based on what you have in the past. But inductive learning is what human beings can do best. We sometimes solve problems that have never been solved before. And AI needs to help us to stimulate that because it provides us with necessary data points for us to consider how we can build that further and achieve the greater result. This is key. Now, do we want to use ChatGPT? Yes, to faster reference data sets, data information that can help us solve problems. But it should also induce us to learn better, to achieve better, and more importantly, attain a higher level of performance. And to do so, we need to understand a few things, right? The future skills in learning is not just about understanding what it is, remembering the knowledge, but it is really a function of a human and AI combined power in learning. And it should enable, one, the concept you learn must augment experiences in the moments they need it. It must apply. Secondly, it should help us to achieve better excellence in the future of work. The future of work is not going to be us as laborers, as people doing a job, performing as per normal, but more importantly, to be able to achieve a level of excellence that we want to expect. And finally, to include parties that can come together. On the left, you see a little diagram that I enjoy looking at, right? It's a modified version of Bloom's 2 Sigma challenge, where we believe the use of AI technology can shift the needle further and enable personalized learning from the conventional classroom to mastering learning one-on-one and eventually personalizing the learning path for the different individual. That brings me to a discussion around what I believe is learning must be fun. Now, learning must be fun, right? I mean, we enjoy most when it's fun, and because it's fun, we want to learn more. But fun here, I refer to being flexible with the contents, unlimited because you can search and find anything to satisfy your curiosity, and more importantly, learning should not be ending. Flexible, unlimited, never ending. Learning must be fun because when it's fun, you want to learn more and you're able to push yourself to generate greater content. Now, the learning journey we have goes from the early days where we have free play to do anything we want to the days where we start to create content, create solution, create application with AI. Now, this is a nice diagram that I like because it shows the application of AI when we are young, in the very early days. I think we go on the basic model of monkey see, monkey do, because somebody does it, you follow. And because when you follow, you kind of mimic, you try to learn, and then you modify, you improve on it. That kind of free play learning is so powerful. And as a young child, we all learn a lot. But when we go into formal education, somehow we get put into a model whereby we have to learn certain fundamentals. And this is where AI must step into your environment. The understanding of AI foundation becomes so key because this will be a stepping stone to the next stage of learning as you move along. When you get into secondary education, you're a lot more mature. You have a certain foundation. This is where you got to figure out how you can experiment with AI, live with AI, build your world around AI, and how AI can support you. When you get to more disciplined training, right, either at college level, university level, or professional training, This is where you start to think about how you can adopt AI into your lifestyle. The question of why not and what it becomes so important, because only by asking why not, only by asking what if, do you appreciate and learn more about the concept you're learning. You do not take knowledge as it is. You challenge knowledge, you learn more, you induce further into what is possible. And of course, once you are in the experience stage, you definitely want to look at how you can continuously learn. You have this self-motivation to learn and achieve more. Now, I can talk a lot more about the learning journey and how learning is fun and induce different aspects of helping you to do that. So I must go back to the questions that was highlighted in the brief chat box, right? I believe ChatGPT or any AI tools that is made available to the education environment is here to help you, not just to be a tool that makes it easy for you to remember, but more importantly, supplement what you are learning. And hence, I believe we are at a point whereby we want to balance the equilibrium between what I call memory retention, which is what we do a lot in the past. We remember content and you're tested on that content, to what I call memory association. You must associate what you learn to something that's applicable, that's being used, that is reliable in the way it's being applied. Of course, there are some fundamentals that you need to understand. There's also a need to understand the level of maturity before you to adopt the technology, and how far can you retain that practice and move it further. Hence, we have to move from conceptual reasoning, which is what we do best today, to connecting those concepts with ideas and eventually aligning it with the context application that we're doing. So learning is going to be put in a stage whereby we need to find that equilibrium between what I call just-in-case learning and just-in-time learning. Just-in-case learning is what we do today. We teach a lot of content, a lot of subjects, we transfer knowledge to our young ones, just in case they need the knowledge. But technology is moving so fast today that just-in-case learning is not good enough. Fundamentals, concepts, foundation, yes, just in case. But we need to move in a space whereby we want AI to help us with just-in-time learning. We want AI to satisfy curiosity, to help us search for information, to help us curate information, validate information, apply the information. And this is where AI can play a huge part in achieving that. I will move on to a deeper model, what I call I learn, you learn, and we learn. I have the privilege of presenting this paper last year in San Francisco with Professor Vesa Solomon of HMK in Finland. And we talk about how individual learning is largely based on memory retention. But if you can work as between two persons, you're able to associate this memory and help train or teach another person in you learn. Now, all of you students know this very well, right? If you're able to explain a concept to your fellow student classmates, you know better than them. So try to do that, right? Don't just memorize the content, but be able to talk to people, associate the content, and help to reinforce the whole idea. And finally, as a group, there's a lot more we can learn, right? You must be able to multiply that memory. You must be able to multiply the knowledge so that we as a group can learn better. Remember, it is not just how much you know, but it is how much you can learn more that's more important. Because how much you know based on pure data and knowledge, you can get it anywhere on the internet today. But if you're able to take that and learn more, that will build you a better person.
Excuse me, Mr. Oliver Tian. Is it
Yes.
possible to make the screen like a full screen? Because somebody is asking me.
Sure.
Perhaps the font's too small. Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess what is also happening is that we are seeing reports that suggest that future organizations are enabled by Gen AI and more importantly led by humans. So humans must play a part in leading the whole discussion. I'd like to bring you to this particular point. And Gary Kasparov, some of you may know, is a chess champion who lost to the computer many years ago. And he came to realize that it's not enough to say that we want to have less technology, but we want to have better humans who are better at technology and can master technology. It goes on the principle of 0 to 1 and 1 to 1 plus. 0 to 1 means that there's an ideal state of performance. right? We want AI to help you achieve that, to augment our capability to achieve the ideal state. 1+ where you go beyond what you do and extend your potential to achieve more. And AI has the capability, if we combine generative AI and computation AI, we are able to move to that state. Here, I show you some of the contents around the world, right? This is China. China is starting AI textbooks for preschoolers. Mind you, preschoolers, right, are starting to appreciate what AI is all about. They're also ramping up technical education, and there are 35 universities in China that has approved AI majors. So what that tells you is that China is one of the countries moving forward. And UNESCO is also stepping in to say that, hey, there's a need for us to look at how we can provide some policy guidance on AI for children. And this was published not too long ago. You can get a copy of this guidebook from the internet itself. But clearly, we need to have the next generation build up their full understanding and appreciation of AI. I say, hey, maybe it's just China, maybe it's just UNESCO. But hold on. Oops. Sorry about that. Let me go back to here are some examples of European university countries, right, who have started to adopt AI, right? Norway is one example, has decided that ChatGPT should be used by students and teachers, and they are training teachers to help the children understand ChatGPT as a tool and not to shun it. Denmark is doing the same, and so on and so forth. So what we're seeing is that the use of tools is going to be like the calculator. We did not reject the calculator in the 1970s. Today, we rely on the calculator for faster computation, for being able to use greater contents. I am a fan of quantum physics. Max Planck is one of the person I spend time reading on. You may say, hey, it's not easy, right? But perhaps the learning institutions are starting to evolve. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. Let me repeat that, right? When you change the way you look at things you look at change. In other words, if we keep thinking of the same way of performing our task, we will always be there and not moving further. We must be able to take a different perspective on how we train, how we teach, and more importantly, how we learn. Another quote before I end my presentation by Albert Einstein: doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is not going to happen, right? This is the time where with AI in place, you must think again how we learn, you must think again how we teach, so they can build a better generation. And in time to come, we can leverage technology to achieve what I call a zero digital divide. To the audience, let me end here. My contacts are on the message out there. We have a website called airobotics.tech, AI in robotics, and how we are able to apply technology in the most effective way. We ran altogether about, 30 to 40 sessions of webinars on AI in robotics, and a lot of contents are recorded and available for you to review. So go to that website and you'll be able to find all those information. Thank you very much for listening to me, and back to you, host.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver Tian, for the expressive and energetic presentation. We will now open the floor for the questions from the audience. I know everyone has questions after such a great presentation. To ensure everyone gets a chance to participate, let's begin with a quick round of 2 focus questions. But I open this session for the one who is online. Is there any of you? You may raise your hand if you want to ask questions, introduce yourself, and you can start asking questions. Is there anyone who raised their hand? Oh, I saw some people already put some question in the chat box. Perhaps we can start with the first question from Ibu Alin. But Dian, could you please help me to share the questions so everyone can see the questions? Okay, if I can read from the, don't worry, I can read from the chat box from Ibu Alin. Is there any universally established international regulations specifically governing how the code or references information obtained from the AI like ChatGPT? If none, what do you suggest? What do you suggest us to do when quoting information from it? So the questions can be answered by two speakers, so we can have like 2 point of views. That's the. Oh yeah, thank you, Batian, for sharing again.
Okay, I could take a first step to this excellent question, which points to one of the dilemmas that we have, that the level of regulation is first of all difficult to achieve, and second of all, there is not as much as we would like to have out there yet. When I collaborate with different universities in different countries, you usually have to talk to all of their lawyers specifically, because the regulations are very nationally based. There are, I think, first guidelines from, let's say, multinational policy organizations, like, for instance, the European Union, but there is nothing that I think can be consistently applied as far as I know. So what would I recommend? I would always recommend, whether there are any regulations or recommendations related to your specific use case in your country, and to be as transparent about the use of AI and how you used it as possible. Yeah, that would be my brief answer. I don't know, Oliver, maybe you can jump on that. Yeah.
I sit into some of the classes here in Singapore, and part of it into Philippines and Hong Kong universities. Listen to the lecture in progress, right? And I quote you this particular anecdote, right? A professor is presenting a topic, and somebody puts up his hand and say, "Hey, ChatGPT says otherwise." So this student puts the professor on the spot because he's able to use ChatGPT to find the answer. I think what we need to do with both the trainer, the teacher, as well as the learner, has to relook at how we adopt the technology, right? I think it's important for the teacher to explore what ChatGPT can provide and compare that notes with what you are teaching, because you do not want to have a situation in class that makes it awkward. And of course, the student should not blindly just refer to ChatGPT, right, and what contents it produces, and question the professor, because sometimes the contents may have a different local context. So it is important, going back to what I shared earlier, what if and why not? So we need to build that skill. And I guess in critical thinking, we always challenge ourselves to think about that as well. Most schools today have started to publish the policies around the use of Gen AI tools. A number of Singapore universities have already started to do that. So if any one of you are interested, you could check out some of the university guidelines on the use of Gen AI tools. It does make that particular reference. And like what Samuel said, it's very localized. Different countries will probably have different views on how ChatGPT and other Gen AI tools can be adopted. You'll find that sometimes the different countries actually propose different use of the tool and recommend different aspects of it as well. So yes, it's coming together, very localized to different countries. We can take reference to some of the colleges that started to apply the policies and then adapt it accordingly for your local use.
Thank you. I saw Ibu Haryanti raise her hand. Please introduce yourself and feel free to ask the question.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Maybe, afternoon here in Indonesia. So my name is Haryanti. Actually, now I'm students in postgraduate students. So what I want to ask regarding about the AI, actually, yes, I know there are many opportunities regarding about the AI, but in the other hand, that as we know, the result of the international assessments that we had last year, 2022, the results still like our critical thinking, is still, I cannot say a way behind, but we still struggle with that, right? And now another challenge from the AIs, what should we do as educators? I know in Java, maybe most of the teachers are ready to face this, but in other areas in Indonesia, like others islands, which is we still struggle with the technology, even to with the like in science, we still struggle with the even for the laboratory activity, we still struggle with that. Do you have any idea how we will face this? And then because if we avoid to transform our education, then we will be we cannot compete with others country, right? So any idea for us, and maybe for Brain, since that you are maybe I don't know if I can say that you are part of the government, and maybe you can the policy. We are not ready with the policy of AI, right? We are many sector that we are not ready yet for this. I think hopefully it's clear questions. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Ibu Haryanti, for the question. Actually, that's a real situation in Indonesia. I also have the same question for you. And this is one of the reasons why our institution, National Research and Innovation Agency, are conducting this event with SEAMOLEC, because we have a similar question with you. So would you please, Mr. Oliver Tian and Mr. Samuel Greiff, to answer questions from Ibu Haryanti?
Thanks, Emil. I saw your hand. You offered me to go first. I'll do that. I'll do that. Yes, this is a very interesting question, and already we have got different adoption levels of technology in the different countries, right? And Indonesia may not be on top of the list. I showed you some example of China, Denmark, and so on and so forth. But it's never too late to start, and it is important to figure out how we can bring the best minds together to support that. I'm part of an advisory panel to Uzbekistan. The Ministry of Higher Education in Uzbekistan has put together an international committee to advise them on the adoption of particularly AI and advanced technology in the curriculum. So we met last year in October, and we had Zoom meetings as well to talk about some of the best practices around the world and what can be considered locally. Now, it is going to be difficult for me to advise you in Indonesia what is possible, because you understand the practices and the current level at the country. But we can share with you what is being done outside of Indonesia and the steps perhaps some other countries are taking to progress themselves. So we can have that discussion. That's probably the first thing you want to do. Secondly, I bet with you, your students, and Haryanto like itself, Haryanti like itself, right? You're hungry for information, right? And you probably will spend time Googling and searching the internet for information. My son is doing applied AI in a university, right? And of course, part of the curriculum in Singapore do not do a lot of international history and content, but he knows so much about World War II and the history of Europe and USA, not because the teacher taught them, but he went in together with his friends to Google and go to YouTube and learn a lot more on their own. And this is where advanced technology and AI can support you, because if you have a certain set of curiosity, right, you want to go and find the information, and AI can create that learning path for you, because AI can help you look at where you are hungry in terms of learning and where can they supply the information. ChatGPT can do the same for you, or Bard, or any of this Gen AI too, right? If you ask a question and you get some answers out, they will tell you where to find some of this information, and that can build upon that. So maybe we can do a little exercise or project within your university to encourage a student not to just build another circuit or do another survey, but really to see how they can find more information on using AI tools and report what they find in the tool and how they themselves can benefit from it. So incorporating all the critical skills, all the communication skills, all the prompt engineering skills, blah, 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 into one package project and get them to find for themselves their best learning model. Maybe that could be a project to consider. And I'll be happy to work with you to talk about how that can be structured, right? And I'm happy to elevate the level of what we have. I do that with the Philippine universities in terms of what they hope to learn and share with them some of the ideas. Samuel, over to you.
Well, thank you for sharing that question, and thank you for your answer, Oliver. I would probably kind of go a little bit more on the educational system perspective. And if I understood you correctly, you mentioned that, and you see this in many countries, and you see it very clearly in, for instance, studies such as PISA or PIAC, that if many countries are concerned about having a sufficient level of mathematics, reading, and science in their students. And that is already might be a challenge for them for several reasons. For instance, because funding for education might be limited. And then when you start talking about additional aspects, you mentioned critical thinking, but you can think of a host of other things, also socio-emotional competencies, and now even AI literacy comes on top of that. Then some systems really struggle to integrate this. And it is, in a way, really an unsolved question on how can you bring this to all students in a way that they all benefit from it. One way that you could start thinking about that is that it is important to really understand the situation. And there, national assessments or surveys or international assessments like PISA can just help to, first of all, describe the situation, to see, as you mentioned, is it really something across the board, or is it, for instance, in areas that are geographically not easily reachable, that might have difficulties in connecting with technology? Is it maybe particularly in those geographical areas where additional support is needed? And then from the, let's say, detailed description of the situation and the specific issues and needs for improvement, then it's up to policymakers to come up with programs. And those programs then, of course, need to be very specific. I give you an example unrelated to AI. The last PISA cycle showed that in Germany saw, also compared to other countries, a huge influx of migration, which I appreciate, but of course it creates challenges for the education system. So we saw in the last PISA cycle that in particular those students with a migration background need additional support. And now policymakers have reacted and said, okay, we allocate funding, we do programs that look specifically at this group of students. And I think this is what you can do, offer specific support, and then I'll be quiet, but that's the second part. Also, one issue with these competencies, like critical thinking, is that teachers often still struggle to understand what it really is and how it can be taught, because it's also not found really in the curricula. So reworking the curricula as dynamic documents that adapt to what students need, and not be stuck to reading mathematics and science, but to say, okay, critical thinking, AI literacy, that really needs to be explicit part of curricula. That is also something that is very fundamental. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to before we going to the next session, can I ask the speakers, is it okay if I open one more sessions, which is 2 questions? I think we have got one from Yuli Asmala and another one is from the chatbot. Later on, I'll try to combine it. Is it okay for you guys to have like 2 more questions? Thank you. I saw like still many people are here. There are like 240 and something. But I'm afraid they're going to like have other business that are going to leave the room. Is it possible for us to take a picture together first by opening the camera? Is it possible? I just want to see everyone's here smiling to the camera, and our operator, either Mbak Dian or Mbak Ovi, will take a screenshot from the first screen. Putrina, you there? Oh yeah, thank you. Okay, I'll count down. 3, 2, 1. Smile. Thank you. We move to the second screen. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Now it's in the third screen. 3, 2, 1. Now it's the fourth screen. Am I too fast? No, right? Okay. Okay. 3, 2, 1, smile. Now we are in the fifth screen. Oh, I saw I saw some people not opening the camera, but that's okay. I can still see your names. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, thank you. Now it's the sixth. 3, 2, 1. 7, 3, 2, 1. And the 8, 3, 2, 1. 9, 3, 2, 1. And finally, it's the last. Number 10, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Ibu Yuli Asmala, you ready?
Oh, okay. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for the opportunity. So Samuel and Greiff, and also Oliver, thank you so much for your information and all new knowledge for me, of course, because actually I am a lecturer in a university which is teaching the English lesson and also the linguistic subject. So I would like to share my experience. You know what? Students are creative than the teacher right now, especially for the AI era. So, of course, I decided to not avoid the AI. Then I embrace my student and also the AI together. That's why I create my mid-semester test and also the final test open book, because when I create it in closed book, yeah, they will cheat behind me. They were cheating behind me. Yeah. So I decided to embrace them all together. But of course, always advise them to create the answer based on your thought. Make the AI become their support to answer the question from me. So. I'm a new learner of AI, of course, but it made me become curious in many things related on AI. How to make, how to choose the best AI for my student, how to create the prompt, the best prompt, so the AI can give me the best answer, and then finally, after I hear everything, all the information from Samuel Greiff and also Oliver Tian, it's very thankful. Thank you so much for you too. And one question for you. Would you please to give me a suggestion? What kinds of AI that can support me to in teaching, learning process, and also the best AI that you have ever used to help you in teaching and learning process. I think that's all my question. Thank you so much, Agi, for your opportunity.
Thank you, Ibu Yuli Asmala. Okay, so the question is from Ibu Yuli Asmala. If I can repeat that again, perhaps you might share your experiences. Please suggest some AI which is useful for educations based on your best practice or experiences. Can we start from Mr. Samuel and later on Mr. Oliver? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. And it is great to hear and to see you attending this session as an example of somebody who is really interested and who really wants to make use of that technology. And I think we need many more teachers like you who, let's say, openly and with a high level of interest try to approach these new frontiers. With regard to your specific question, let me say that I would probably suggest to you that you search a little bit for yourself, because there are many experiences that you will find on the web and that you know the best what it is that you actually need. And you will find many fellow teachers that have made great or maybe not so great experiences, so that I think when you look around a little bit, you will find probably the best tool for you, and probably much better than if I would make any suggestion. I mean, GP Teach is something that is pretty broad and works well, so you could take a look at that. But also there's also so much development in new bots, new programs coming up. So feel free to drop me an email if you don't get any further with that, but I would suggest that you're probably in the best position to find a good tool for what you specifically need.
Sure. Let me add on to what Samuel have shared. I think that's a good point, right? At the end of the day, you have to look at your local context and what is most useful. In fact, if you just do an internet search, there will be a list of tools that's made available. And if you need help, I guess Samuel and myself will share with you a survey of tools that's available. But what I would share with you is the experience that Nanyang Polytechnic adopts in Singapore. Nanyang Polytechnic is a kind of a high school and kind of university level in between. They realized that a lot of students are using ChatGPT. So the teachers adopted Bob as a tool. All right. So then they can use Bob as a check and validation for the answers that the students come back with. All right. So in other words, don't think of adopting one tool as the main guideline. Think of multiple tools, because each tool may provide you with a very different perspective. Somebody asked a question about how do you validate the ChatGPT information, and one of the skills that I wrote in as a response to the question is storytelling. We all forget that storytelling is also a very important critical skill. Now, what I mean by that, right? We can learn a lot of things, but can you tell that in a story for the next person to understand what you're saying? If you cannot tell it in a story for the next person to understand, you do not know what it is, you're just memorizing. Right? So I would actually encourage teachers to get students to say, fine, this is a question, you come up with a ChatGPT answers, great. Tell me in your own words, tell me in your own perspective what it is, right? Now, if the child can, tell it in their perspective, add in their own, experience, right? They know and they understand. But if they just repeat what's inside, what's produced by the AI tool, they don't understand. Right? So what you cannot create, you cannot understand. If you can create a story out of it, you can tell your detail, that would be useful. So not to worry whether this is the best tool or this is a not so good tool, because there will be new tools coming out very soon, right? And there's no end to it. What is important, you must guide your students. You must guide them to appreciate the information generated by the AI tools, whether it's ChatGPT, Bob, or Gemini, or anything else, doesn't matter. But if you can guide them to ask the right question, to ask why not, to tell them, to get them to tell the story, you are coaching them. You are building the talent in the next generation. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you. But Dian, could you please share the screen again? Because I want to combine the questions that I found from the chat. It is still it is related to the previous questions, there we can see the questions. Is it on the screen already? Oh, thank you. Yeah, educators are concerned about the appropriate of use AI tools in education, right? Some students are using the large language model like ChatGPT to complete the assignments, just like previously mentioned by the questioner, raising question about the originality and deep learning. On the other hand, some educators worry that discouraging AI use altogether might hinder students' ability to find information effectively. So in your view, what do you think? How can educators best navigate this challenge? Should the focus be on developing research skills without AI, or should educators explore better AI tools for learning? These questions from Mr. Kumil and Aan Suhendar. So I think the questions
sure.
can be answered by
I'm happy to go first. It's a good question, right? And a bit related to the earlier discussion that we have. I think I believe it is almost impossible to stop the students from using AI tools, and you should not. Right. So in the past, we train our students in good mental mathematics, right? How to do long division. I mean, remember the days, how to, you know, train yourself on you know, table multiplication tables, right? And we spend a lot of time coaching students there. But today, you really don't need that because the calculator can provide a lot of information. So look at the outcome you want to produce. Look at how you want the students to build up their knowledge and be able to be smart enough to enter the industry eventually, right? Tools are always going to be tools. Today is Gen AI, today is Bob, tomorrow there'll be something else. And if you go into the internet, there's a huge list of tools that's available. What I would recommend is train the students' mind to think critically, to put in their perspective, ask the question, what if and why not? And you know, if the students can embed those two questions into the response to you, they have mastered something. If they have not, then as teachers, you should ask them the question, what if and why not? That will trigger their thinking. If they are dumbfounded and they cannot give you an answer, that means they have not done their homework. But if they can explain to you in their perspective, what if and why not, then they've understood what it is. So I will encourage that is the more important approach, rather than figure out what's the best AI tool to be used. That's my goal. Yep. Samuel, yourself?
Yeah, when I look at the question, I think, you know, kind of the question, I am a teacher, I'm interested in AI, and what should I do now? I think it's a very good question and very difficult because it's a very broad area. There are so many things you need to consider, but when you feel you're on your own, you're doing this by yourself, then I think you can easily and quickly feel lost. So I understand. I think what is needed is a need for guidance and for support that goes a little bit on a more abstract level. And we can talk about policymakers providing guidance through policy documents and AI guidelines, but we can also talk about schools, about single institutions that can develop their approach together on how they want to approach AI, how they want to use tools. I do think that AI tools should play a critical part in more or less all teaching, because they are just education technology, and they are there. They will be there increasingly so. And I think teachers need to learn how to integrate them. So it's working with them, definitely not against them, but doing it all on your own. That's very difficult. So I would suggest, if you really want to do something, build a working group in your school, team up with other teachers that are interested in that, exchange, share experiences, and then bring it into the classroom and into your teaching.
Thank you for the explanations. Okay, thank you so much for the explanation. Thank you again for the fantastic Q&A session. Understanding current literacy levels is crucial, we believe, as we move forward in the field of AI in education. Because I already made a promise, pinky promise, we have only 2 sessions. So this is the end of the Q&A sessions. I apologize for the participants that I haven't got the chance to read the questions. Of course, we're happy to have you guys here. And of course, we're looking forward to have like same similar occasion like this, similar agenda event that can bring us new knowledge and perspective from speakers that we can have around the world. Thank you once again, Mr. Samuel Greiff and Mr. Oliver Tian, for your insightful presentation. To show our thanks, we would like to present you with this little token of appreciation, a certificate acknowledging your amazing contribution to this event. We will send it to you by email. First certificate goes to Mr. Samuel Greiff as a speaker in sharing session Artificial Intelligence in Education on May 29, 2004. Thank you. And second one, we also will send a certificate which is presented to Oliver Tian as a speaker in the sharing session Artificial Intelligence Education on May 29, 2024. And of course, for all the participants, we also will give you some the certificates. Next, yes, to help us as a research institution, BRIN, to improve appreciated insight, we have AI literacy instrument, which is available online. But Dian, could you please share the screen? Yeah. Here we go. By filling out, you'll be directly contributing to shaping the future of AI education. That is bilingual questionnaire, which is available in English and Bahasa Indonesia. We appreciate your time and participations. You'll receive the certificate upon completion. So as we come to the end of this insightful webinar, I would like to thank our distinguished speaker, Professor Samuel Greiff and Mr. Oliver Tian for their dear contributions. Thank you to Dr. Tina Fizanti as the head of Research Center for Education. Thank you for Dr. Wahyudi for their opening remarks from SEAMOLEC. And big thank you to all of your active participation during this event. Thank you for all the committee, Mr. Janu, the team leader of this project, Bu Alin from SEAMOLEC, our partner from SEAMOLEC, and of course, Mr. Suharto, who helped us to contact Dr. Samuel Greiff and Professor Oos, Mbak Dian, Mbak Ovi, and also Mr. Kaprawi. We hope you found this session valuable and inspiring. Have a great day ahead. Putrina, do you have something to say?
I think this is really productive discussion. Thank you very much, Prof. Samuel Greiff and also Dr. Oliver Tian. I hope that we can continue our collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes our webinar. Goodbye, and thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
7 Mas Egi.
Yeah.
Thank you, Simon, Oliver, great. I got my answer now from your presentations. Thank you so much.
We are glad to hear that.
Thank you, Putrina. It's very enlightening.